Good afternoon. I'm Jay Nolan, publisher of Mountain Advocate. Welcome to the MountainAdvocateMedia.com. This afternoon we're excited to have as our guest Mr. Matt Bevin. Matt is the winner of the Republican Party primary and candidate for governor of Kentucky. He's a former military officer, a successful businessman, a husband, father, and he hopes to be Kentucky's next governor. So, Mr. Bevin, before we get started this afternoon, we'd like to give you a chance, before we delve into specific questions, to just tell our viewers a little bit about yourself, your family, and what makes you qualified to lead Kentucky, and specifically Eastern Kentucky, as our governor.
Sure. Thank you, Jay. Thanks for the opportunity to be here. And I'll say both to those of you that are watching this and to you, we have a clear choice. I mean, there is between myself and my opponent a very distinct difference in this race. I'm a guy that grew up in a simple way. I grew up in the mountains in a very rural environment, below the poverty level, but I've been very blessed in my life. I've lived the American dream. I was the second of 6 kids. Grew up in a house with no central heat. I shared a bedroom with my 3 brothers growing up, and we raised a variety of crops and animals and had kind of a simple life. But I was raised with 2 things that I'm grateful for. Raised with a very strong work ethic. You give an honest day's work for an honest day's pay. You don't take money you didn't earn. Those fundamental basic things that I was taught, but also a strong Christian upbringing, and I'm grateful for that. I mean, the good Christian principles and values that have made America strong were the ones that were instilled in me as a child. So I was able to go off to college. I went to school in Virginia when I was 18, went on into the military, was an active duty Army officer for a number of years, got out, and for the last 20 some odd years I've been in the business world. I am a business owner. I've never been an elected official, so if people are looking for a career politician, I'm not their guy. But if they're looking for someone like them who will fight for them like they would fight for their own family. You mentioned that I have children, and I do. I actually have 9 children, which to many seems like a large number. For some folks, they remember being a part of a family like that, but not so common nowadays. We did this on purpose, though. We had 5 children, and then we adopted 4 additional children. And there's a lot of need in our communities right here in Barberville, but even beyond, just in this state and in this country and in this world, just a lot of kids who need a home. So we're blessed to be in a position where I now have an opportunity to bring my skills, my training, my life experience to bear for the people of Kentucky. I love this state. We are an extraordinary state. We have great opportunity. And why would I make a good governor? I'll tell you, because I'll fight for this state using business principles, being a fiscal conservative, bringing my life experience to bear on behalf of all Kentuckians. You asked about Eastern Kentucky. Well, it is important for us to remember, and we can talk specifically about issues that matter here more than in other places. But Eastern Kentucky is part of all of Kentucky. And I met just earlier with some of the area development folks from all over the state. And when one part of the state is sagging, we're all sagging. One part of the state is doing well, we're all doing well. And that's important for us to remember as we move forward into this election and, frankly, into the future.
You talked about Eastern Kentucky, and specifically some of the survey after survey after survey we put out here in Eastern Kentucky identifies as the #1 problem in our area from multiple different sources is the problem of illegal prescription and non-prescription drug abuse.
Yes.
And what it is doing to our families. Some people say this is just a local issue. Others say there's a role for the state. What's your position, and what as governor would you do specifically to help fight this drug epidemic that's sweeping our country?
Yeah, I will tell you, unfortunately, it's not just a local issue. It really is a statewide issue, and to your point, it's frankly a national issue. We've got to address this. What is the root cause? If we only worry about putting Band-Aids on, and we don't address the root cause, we'll never solve this. If you know from this community, we had a prescription pill problem. We squeezed that balloon, and boom, all of a sudden we have a heroin problem. We've just recently squeezed that balloon, and it will be something else. We've got to address the root underlying cause. When did all of this really start to take hold? As greater and greater numbers of people were unable to find quality work and found themselves becoming financial wards of the state. It is not healthy in any way, shape, or form for able-bodied, working-aged men and women to sit at home with nothing to do because there is nothing for them to do. And at the root cause of this, we've got to create a stronger, healthier economy in Kentucky.
So since you're talking about economy, let's make that switch. Kentucky just won the Governor's Cup Award nationally for the best state economic development program. Yet, Knox County here, we've got a high poverty rate. Our average median household income is less than $24,000 a year for the household. Most of our coal industry jobs are gone. True Seal has closed. We've lost our major manufacturing plant. What are your plans to bring jobs into Eastern Kentucky?
We've got to look at the total overall package. We literally have to look at the tax structure in this state. We have to look at what is it that causes people to leave here. Some of it is a suppression by the EPA. It's over-regulation, and we've got to be, as a state, stand on our 10th Amendment rights, stand firmly against things that we're not legally required to do. There is no reason why we should not have and could not continue to have coal-fired power plants, for example, in the state. There's never in the history of the world been more consumption of coal than there is right now, ever. Why is Kentucky not taking part in this? Alpha just had to shut down. They're basically going through bankruptcy right now. They may emerge, but they'll probably be 25% the size they are now. That's affecting us here. We can't afford it. For every dollar we lose in the coal fields, there's a ripple effect in these communities of $3 or more. And so we've got to create a healthier environment. It means a better tax structure. It means a better labor law structure. It means a healthier structure in terms of how we care for people in health care. We can talk about that. Education. All these things are connected. If we fix these at the state level on down, we will be a place that not only encourages people to grow, but people to come from the outside and put down roots.
Some of the things that Congressman Rogers and Governor Beshear so far have done in Eastern Kentucky is implement the SOAR program and the infrastructure that the state is working on with Senator Stivers and others to bring the backbone of the internet, as they call it, to Eastern Kentucky and have, I think they call it internet halls. So what would you do as governor to support or tweak or add to the SOAR program?
I like the SOAR Summit. I went to the very first one back in 2013. And what I have always said, I was asked at that summit by a reporter actually, what as an elected official, what would I do if I were in a position to do so to help the people of Eastern Kentucky? What could I do on behalf of the people? And what I said there is, given the fact that we're broke as a state, despite what our governor is telling us about how economically sound our state is, we're not. I've driven over 75,000 miles in this state in the last 2 years, and it's not just Knox County. There's a lot of counties that are struggling, and the headlines aren't indicative of the truth. What I said then and I say now is we need to stop looking at what can the government do and start asking in all seriousness, what can the government stop doing to the people of Eastern Kentucky? What can we stop doing to overregulate and suffocate, overtax these very industries that we need to stay here, to give the opportunities to people that when they have the jobs, they then have the dignity and the self-respect and the self-esteem that goes along with providing for themselves, and then they're less likely to take part in these destructive activities like getting involved in drugs and other situations that aren't good.
One of the things in Eastern Kentucky that we've been taught for years and years is we have to have a strong education system. And education is the single biggest expenditure from state government. And you have a little different approach to education. You favor letting parents take their per pupil spending that's allocated for each child and apply it to the cost of private or religious or homeschooling, and you also are against Common Core. A lot of people in the Kentucky Education Association and public school teachers oppose this. Why are you right?
The part that's true of what you just said is that I am opposed to Common Core. I don't think it's a good solution for our young people. I'll come back to that. As to the first one, I'm not saying that everybody should be able to take their money wherever they want. I am a proponent of school choice, no question. But let's walk before we run. Let's start with our failing school systems. We have some schools that literally have failed for 2, now going on 3 generations, where kids are not graduating. They're not graduating with any kind of degree of frequency. And because of that, and when they do, they're not prepared for any kind of post-secondary education. Let's start there by creating public charter schools, by creating vouchers for those parents to allow them the ability to give choices to their students. No student should be forced to go to a failing school when we know that it's a failing school. There's no justification for that whatsoever. So I do believe we should have competition for public education dollars, but not just wide open Wild West kind of an approach. Let's be thoughtful about it. Let's sit down with the KEA and with others and decide how can we best serve our young people. As it relates to Common Core, my thinking is if we don't have a better result as a result of it, we need strong standards. We need to attain the best possible education for our young people. But frankly, the Common Core standards have turned our teachers, and if you're a teacher out there looking at this, if you're a teacher, you know that you are being audited to death. Your students are being tested to death, and we're not actually producing a more well-educated young person. So let's rethink this again, get the people at the table, and come up with the right solution.
Mr. Bevin, currently the Cabinet for Health and Family Services just this one department alone has not been very open and forthcoming to the public about what's going on. They've defied at least 4 times in the last month the state open records law, according to Kentucky Press Association. It seems that the administration and the people in that cabinet don't want the public to know what's going on, to the extent they have appealed all the way to the state Supreme Court numerous times, requests for information, and they keep it private, even after the court said disclose it. And that's happening in other departments, even the State Fish and Wildlife Department. What is your position as governor on keeping the state and the state government agencies open, transparent, and accountable to the people?
I will say this, what you've just described is unacceptable. This is the people's government. It is funded with taxpayers' money, and every one of us, not only you on the press front, but frankly, all of us as taxpayers, as citizens, have a right to know what's happening under everything single hood. That includes our pension plans. That includes understanding why this veil of secrecy on everything in state government. If in fact we're being good stewards of the people's money, why should we care in government? And so I will be an absolute proponent for not only, first of all, auditing all of these departments, the pension systems included, and letting 4.4 million sets of eyes look at this, including everybody in the media, to let people know exactly what's going on. You should not have to battle the government for open records access. It is the right of the people to know how their money is being spent. This is the mindset that I bring to it. This is part of why I'm running. Because as a taxpayer, I want a good return on my investment.
Speaking of taxpayers and investments, you've called on the governor to defund Planned Parenthood in Kentucky, and you've pledged to do so if elected. How would you respond to those arguing that, yes, but Planned Parenthood provides birth control, which results in less abortions?
There are many services that are provided by many healthcare organizations to help women with their health needs. We do not need to continue as taxpayers to subsidize an organization, Planned Parenthood, that is harvesting baby parts for profit. It's sadistic, it's wrong, it is against the law, and despite the fact that it's against the law, they continue to do it. So why should we be the suckers who just keep going back to the well? While it may only be some hundreds of thousands of dollars that are allocated from the federal government to the Planned Parenthood here in Kentucky, you know, the bottom line is, I've said I will not disseminate those funds. We'll send them to other healthcare organizations that will get the job done, not to Planned Parenthood.
Okay. You've been attacked in TV ads a lot recently, and the ads claim that you failed to pay taxes on your properties, and you've been attacked in a number of other areas. One, what is your response to these charges? And number two, why has your campaign not gone negative?
You know, if I look at it this way, if you need to be negative in order to win, shame on all of us. These are lies. They have been disproven years ago, actually. They're being recycled from 2 years ago. It's the same nonsense that have been debunked. People can go to PolitiFact, factcheck.org, the Washington Post, the Courier Journal, any number of people that have looked at this. The Democrats are lying because they don't have the ability to say anything positive about their own candidate. I'm running a positive campaign because I have positive things to say. I don't need to attack Jack Conway. Jack Conway stands for many things that those in Kentucky don't stand for.
Give us a list of examples in the last minutes we've got left. What are the compare and contrast the differences between you and Mr. Conway on what you think are the most key issues?
I'll tell you the things that I hear about on the campaign trail. Number one, the most topical right now is the marriage issue. Frankly, I have always believed that marriage is between one man and one woman and God. Now, the law of the land says that same-sex couples are allowed to marry. So I'm proposing, let's find a way to reconcile that so that we comply with the law and also protect the First Amendment religious liberties of clerks, bakers, florists, whoever else. That's a big difference between me and Jack Conway, who refused to even uphold his oath when he was the Attorney General, and still is. He did not do his job, forcing taxpayers to pay for it. As it relates to the Second Amendment, he has at times been quick to jump on the restriction of our Second Amendment rights. I am strongly in support of our Second Amendment rights. I'm a concealed carry gun owner, so is my wife. I'm a former military veteran. Speaking of which, I am a military veteran. He is not. I have also created jobs in the private sector. He has not. He has never worked really in the private sector except a few months here and there in between political jobs. He's a career politician. I'm a guy who's been out making jobs in the private sector. So there are many things where we are different. I mean, on so many fronts, it's easy for folks to look at this and be able to make a clear determination. If you want more of the same kind of policies that have led to the decline in the economy in this state has been run by Democrats largely now for 90 some odd years in the House and almost without exception in the governor's seat. If we keep doubling down on that thinking, we're going to get very continued results. And I would challenge you and all of your viewers, think close, look closely. Nobody owes me a vote. But I would humbly ask for your vote, because simply, you need to make a determination as to who best represents you. And I'm a guy who's not a professional politician. I'm willing to fight on behalf of Kentuckians for a finite period of time. I have pledged to never take a pension from the state of Kentucky. I'm the only one in this race that's worked in the pension business. I started a firm in Kentucky that today manages $5 billion in pension assets. So I understand what we need to do. And yet I will never take a penny in pension from the people of Kentucky. I don't think elected officials should, frankly. And that's my opinion.
All right. Matt, we thank you for being with us this afternoon.
Thank you.
Encourage everybody to get out and vote in November for the governor's race 2015.
Yes.
Thank you all, and have a great afternoon.